Hello, my beautiful and courageous friends. This is Natalie Kelly, and today I'm here with Amy Moeller, who has lived with a brain injury for 18 years.
When the waves came and when the storm raged, found myself falling into the ground. When the wind blew, that's when it fell through, and I don't know how to turn it around. I know there's more to me than the wreckage you see. There's more to be. I'm still on the journey. I'm still on
Amy was on The View after her brain injury on television. She was also in People magazine featured for her brain injury. And Amy is here today to tell us a little bit about what it's like living with a brain injury and tips for how to live well. So thanks for being with us, Amy. And Amy, can you tell us your story and how did you end up with a brain injury?
I was walking, actually I wasn't walking, I took my dog to the park, got in my car, drove the 2 blocks, and the final block into the park, I probably ran my light, but a super shuttle jumped his green and hit my car, and it spun, and it was the spinning that caused the traumatic brain injury. Then I was in a good strong car, but then I was trapped in the car, and they had to have the jaws of life come and get me out of the car. And during that time, I had multiple strokes. So I think the strokes and the spinning did it all. Just, I was in a coma for 6 weeks, and in the hospital for 4 months. Tons of therapy continues to this day. It's just something that's every day, and I've learned to incorporate into life. So,
And it's been 18 years.
18 years is just a different way of living. It's not the way I imagined, but it's different, and that's how I make it good. So I make it different to different things.
And how do you cope emotionally? Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the progression over 18 years. Like the first year, I'm sure was quite upsetting and a shock. What was that like for you?
It's always just, instead of thinking about the bad, thinking more about what is good and what can be worked with. And instead of being, I can't do this anymore, I can't do that anymore, think of all the things that you can do now. And take time to think of new ways to accomplish things. Like, I have a hard time crawling up things, crawling up ladders, crawling up rock walls. But if you go, instead of thinking up, go out. And so you use your body and your legs to move you up instead of just so you're changing your whole point of view of things. That's what it's necessary to get through this. Because before I was like athletic, and I did stuff, and I had a full-time job, and now it's just things are slower. I can't do things as fast, but it's not doing it as fast that allows me to look around and see the little things that are enjoyable. So
you have found some beauty in slowing down.
Yeah, I'm really taking the time to stop and smell the roses. So that's what you need to do. And for example, people that drive in their car and they want to go so fast and they cut around you and go, we're all going to end up at the same red light. And I would rather pull up next to you and smile versus pull up next to you and be angry that you went so slow, or that you cut me off, or I cut you off. Just, we're all going the same way. Just relax, take your time. So
you have really worked through a lot of loss and gotten over the hard part and learned how to find a gift in this experience.
It's not to be negative about it. And yeah, it's so easy to fall. This is bad. But no, make your life and those around you better. Look at the things that are good and be happy about that. And it makes you you happier, and it makes everyone that's around you happier. You're more enjoyable to be around. So
that's a beautiful attitude for somebody with a brain injury to be acquired.
It's hard, but that's what works. That's the way that I've seen it work over and over again. So
yeah,
my biggest thing has been that vision is very difficult to keep what's going on around you from really making you too confused. And I find that then touch, if you touch walls or touch a person, or I have a service dog and I touch his head or hold his leash. So I find that center balance is what really helps focus me. So.
Well, one of the things that you had mentioned earlier was feeling like you operate in the world like a blind person.
Everything is a little fuzzy, but if you just slow down and touch things, again, back to touch really helps things kind of stay more in your mind.
So like a blind person would have to navigate by touching and
and
feeling
hearing
the world.
and hearing things and smelling things and sort of knowing what's around you, not based solely on your vision, but on other aspects of your body.
Yeah, and can you describe why it is that you feel like you're a blind person even though you can see?
That everything is a little... I always think of it as how I just help people understand this. Having a brain injury feels like being drunk 24 hours a day, and you never get sober. Things can stay more focused and be more controlled, but pretty much you feel like you're in a fog, and you have to learn to move around and do everything within this fog. So it's a little harder.
Yeah. So how do you do things like navigate through a crowd? I know that's a challenge.
That it's been really helpful to do different visual cues and do vision therapy. And what they taught me was to pick something in the distance and focus on that one object, and everything else will kind of fall to the wayside. That you can just stay focused on the one thing and everything else calms down. So that's...
So if you're walking down a mall, for example.
If I'm in Costco, which is so overwhelming, so many things, so many sounds and people. If you look up high, there's big boxes, and you just pick a box, pick the line on the box, and just look at that, and focus on that, and everything will just kind of calm down, so fall down.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's another thing that I fall a lot, and I found that you're gonna fall, no matter what in life. Things are gonna happen, and you're gonna fall. So you need to learn to fall. So I find that if you kind of go into the motion, then it's not as painful when you actually land. So that's my tip.
You kind of go with the flow, right?
Yeah, don't freak out. Just kind of let it happen, and don't curve what you can so that it's not as bad of a fall, but it is not as harmful to you.
So, and then after you fall, what do you do emotionally so that you don't feel traumatized consistently by this life experience?
I would say do it again, but just that is the biggest thing, is to not be fearful of what just happened, but then say, okay, how can I approach this, but not in a different way? There's not always one way to accomplish things. There's lots of different ways. For example, I can't run, but I've learned that I can do lots of other things that are just as taxing for you and get you going. So just.
And a lot of people with brain injuries have a hard time crossing the street. How do you manage to cross the street as a person who operates like a blind person?
Slow, and just claim your space. This is what I need to go and move slowly, and that's slow and steady wins.
Yeah, and probably also the same thing where you probably look at one spot.
Pick something to focus on so that you're not looking all over and trying to figure out and worried about the traffic passing that you're going to cross, and that's where you're headed. So
yeah. Now, Amy, you have a service dog.
Yes.
Gizmo.
Yes.
And how does Gizmo help you navigate in the world?
For example, if I'm walking through the mall, like I was saying, so that I can look around and look in the store windows, look at the different people, I just put my hand out and can touch his head, and my leg brushes against him so I know where I am. And there's kind of a force field around me. So that's...
So by having him next to you and his touch, you know where your body is in space, which allows you the safety to be able to look around.
And the safety to really, look at what's happening around me, and I can look at people and talk to people and actually enjoy window dressing. So they spend all the time making it look so you want to look. Well, I can't look unless I have something else to keep me centered. So that's how the dog helps. It's like a cane.
Yeah, so he keeps you centered.
Yeah.
Gives you a sense of where you are and that sense of touch.
Yeah.
And if somebody was interested in getting a service dog, where would they go to get a service dog? How do you do that?
I would say look online, and there's lots of different organizations that work with people. My particular organization is Canine Support Teams, located in Temecula, and they provide the service dogs to people with disabilities other than blindness, which people, when they see me, because I operate sort of like I'm blind, and I have the dog, think I'm blind. So it works against me and works for me. So people are just more understanding. So
yeah, and they probably get out of your way a little easier too, so you don't have to navigate.
Like I said, there's kind of like a force field around me.
Yeah, so with the dog, people kind of like the ocean's part around you.
He looks scary, but he's the most gentle thing ever. So
that's great. Well, thank you so much, Amy. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you.
Hope that I help somebody.
You are, all the time. Keep on keeping on.
I'm still on the journey.
And the wall hold, if I can find it.
I'm still on the
My hat hole
journey.
here. I'm a dog.